Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Miki Speer. I'm a musician, author, someone who loves this weather, and host of tonight's show, The Healing Half. When I was 13, my mom passed away from cancer, and it took me most of a decade to realize that I needed to actually process my grief, and I couldn't keep running away from it. In addition to that, I also noticed a lot of people in my life really wanted to help my family, but they didn't know how. So I decided to create a show where every single week we're going to talk about those two topics. How can we address our own wounds and how can we learn how to help others? We don't understand. We haven't been in that situation necessarily, but we still want to help. And we've got an awesome show planned for you guys tonight. This is our very first, what I'm going to call a situational deep dive ever. We're going to go into what that means in a little bit when my dad, Mike Sir, talks. But before we dive into that, let's just hear a quick word from our sponsor, who I am personally so grateful for. As you guys know, someone's got to keep the lights on here. So I am just so grateful for all these companies who are supporting this show. So this week is sponsored by Dr. Scott Hawkins of Live Chiropractic, which is based out of Edina, Minnesota, and is where my family has been going for chiropractic care for a while now. I absolutely love how they use core score technology to actually be able to see what needs work, as well as be able to track the process, that, how far you've come, which is pretty cool too. Not only that, but my neck feels a lot better too, which is also great. It's a totally new approach. It's a nothing I'd ever seen before. They've got this thing where it's a monthly subscription and you can just show up during their open hours at any time and as many times as you like, which means there's no appointments. You just walk in as often as you need. So it's super easy. I personally just highly recommend it. The link is in the comments section. And I, again, just cannot say enough about Live Chiropractic. So thank you again for sponsoring this episode. I really appreciate it. And for those of you in the Minneapolis metro area, be sure to give them some love and click on that link. All right. So tonight, I am so excited to be able to share with you a personal friend of mine, personal co-writer named Andrew Mack. And Andrew and Mac, who's on the screen right now, and we met in Nashville at Son Camp, which is super fun. And we've been co-writing together ever since, which is awesome. We wrote a song that I think just fits tonight so perfectly because Andrew and I had written a couple songs together, which is normal in the songwriting industry. A lot of songs are co-written. And it was about after our second or third song, we kind of sat there and we're like, what do you want to write about today? And we're like, I don't know. And somehow it came out. We had no idea up until this point that both of us had lost our moms well before we left home. So like while we were still living at home. And we're like, how did we not know that about each other until right now? So we wanted to write a song about it. And I'll let Andrew kind of intro that song. But what he's also going to do is give this dedication to our episode, which for those of you who are brand new, first of all, welcome. Second of all, every week we do something called a dearly missed dedication. We're going to talk more about that after Andrew goes through it, but just know this week is dedicated to Andrew's wonderful mother.
Yeah, this week dedicated to my mom, Linda. She passed away when I was 15 from cancer, and so yeah, she's definitely missed. And so I was honored to be asked to be onto this show with Miki, and I'm excited to share this song that we wrote. It's kind of a song that kind of looks at how we had to move on in any way that we can, and how much our dads played a role in that, and how much they had to kind of keep things going for the family. Because I was 15, my sister was 17. As Miki said, she was 13. And so we wanted to kind of write a song from this perspective and share about that. So here goes. The song is called Like a River. and our sunshine was buried. I left from our home. You held me in the darkness. You were all alone, all alone. Ooh, ooh. There are no words that can thank you for keeping us together while you fell apart. You kept the broken world turning, dreams that turned to dust and a shattered heart. It's easy to stay frozen in the winter, but you chose to keep moving like a river. Ooh. Part of who you were was forever gone. Through silent tears and fears, you carried on. Ooh. There are no words that could thank you for keeping us together while you fell apart. You kept the broken world turning, dreams that turned to dust and a shattered heart. It's easy to stay frozen in the winter, but you chose to keep moving like a river. Ooh, like a river, like a river.
Oh my gosh, I'm over here crying, goosebumps, and the whole nine yards. Andrew, thank you so much for doing that song justice. I am just so honored by your friendship and for being able to co-write with you. And I can't wait for us to release this song, hopefully by the end of the year. And for those of you who are wondering, we are going to release a YouTube video of it. So you're going to want to sorry about that. You're going to want to make sure you are on my email list. And that way you are going to have this song, this YouTube video, the lyrics, a way to be able to follow the wonderful Andrew Mack, who I'm going to brag about him for 2 seconds, plays on Broadway. For those of you who know Nashville, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity half the time. I'm just kidding. So be sure to follow Andrew along on his wonderful journey and stay tuned for that song in the follow-up email list, which can all be found in mikispeer.com, which is in the comments. So Andrew, thank you again so much for being here tonight. I am so grateful for you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being on here and playing our song together.
Yeah. And for those of you who are brand new, and I see a couple of you in the comments, thank you so much for being here. And if you're watching a replay, let me know. I go through and I read every single comment after the show. But thank you for being here. And if you're like, what was that dearly missed dedication thing? Just a quick reminder that every single week on the show, we want to honor the fact, regardless of the topic we're talking about, that there are a lot of people who made us who we are, and we want to pause and honor that. When somebody passes away, we don't say their name as much, we don't say their name as much, we don't see their photos as much, we don't talk about them as much, and other people don't talk to us as much. So I wanted to give people a space to be able to buy some time in the show to be able to dedicate their loved one to this episode so all of us can get to know who made them who they are. So, Andrew, thank you so much again for sharing your beautiful photo of your wonderful mom. I think the legacy this week is just going to be music and sharing your song of your heart. If any of you are interested in featuring your loved one, or you know somebody who's grieving and you would like to buy that as a gift for them, please just message me after the show via email, Facebook, whatever it's convenient for you, because it's an awesome way to be able to honor a loved one and then let the whole audience know a way that they can continue their legacy. Because remember, their story isn't over. We live that out. So, for tonight's show, I am so excited to have my wonderful father on. His name is Mike Sir, and we'll get to him in a second. But I wanted to kind of preface this section of the show because up until this point, we've had topics that are relatable to everybody: disappointment, overcoming fear, what we should do when we get offended, all of which I know I personally have learned much from. And I hope you guys have taken a couple nuggets away too. But tonight, we are going to do our first ever deep dive situation, a very specific one about losing a wife with kids at home. For those of you who are listening last week, you knew you had the opportunity to submit questions ahead of time, but just by being on my email list. So, for all of you guys listening, just know anytime you have questions that you'd like to ask the speaker of the upcoming week, all you have to do is email me. Just reply to that follow up email that gets sent out after every single show, which has all our summary notes, any links applicable for the replay on both YouTube, Facebook, links to follow people like Andrew, and all that good stuff. But you also can just respond to that email and then you're in my personal inbox. So we had a lot of great questions come in for my dad. I want to let you know I saw all of them. We talked about all of them and we're going to do our absolute best to cover all of them. But if we don't get to it today, just know you're going to fall in love with him just as much as I have fallen in love with my dad. He's so awesome. So we'll definitely have him back on the show. So if something doesn't get answered tonight, we'll be sure to get that. So, without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to be able to welcome the one, the only Mike Sir. Hi, Dad.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
It is so good to see you on
Yeah,
the other side of the
yeah,
computer screen, even though you're only a couple miles that way.
that's true. Hi, everybody.
If you know my dad, give him a big hello in the comments. And just a reminder, one thing too, in addition to show notes, not only will you get them sent out in a follow up email, but a listener did tell me last week that she really values actually taking her own notes and being able to go back through something and see her growth through it, journal about it, and go back and reference it. So just know if you want to write your own notes too, that's okay. So tonight we are doing a situational deep dive, which means we get to talk to you, Dad, all about what it is like to lose a wife with kids at home. And I pray most people on this call have not been in your shoes. That is my hope, that most of us do not understand what it's like. But for the few of you who might actually know what it's like to lose a spouse, we want to offer two things. We want to make sure we offer that group some tips, tricks of the trade, things that help my dad to hopefully help you in your situation. But then for those of us who have not lost somebody, my hope and my prayer for tonight, as with every single episode, but especially situational deep dives, is that we're going to come away with a better understanding of a situation we haven't experienced and know how we can love others who go through that better. So, Dad, do you mind setting the stage for us a little bit? Who was mom? What was your relationship like? And what happened?
Well, we met back in college, and we dated through college, and got married after college, and had our three lovely girls. And there's our wedding day, and got married in 1990, and she was the most beautiful bride. And Amy was just a good egg. She was just a nice girl, and She was just steady and nice, and she was one of those rare people that just kind of woke up happy every day, and she just loved life. So being married to her was a joy, and we had a good marriage, not perfect, but a good marriage. And and then kids started coming, and here we go, and we started getting into the rat race, and both of us working and things like that. So we had a good marriage. It was we put that as a priority, and it was just a it was a good marriage.
Mm.
And then when she was diagnosed with cancer, it was a complete blindside because she was the strongest person any of us had known. She was just so tough and so healthy. So the cancer was a complete surprise. There was no rhyme or reason for it, and it was just one of those things that happen in life.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm like crying, like seeing these photos. 13 years later, right? Or not, my math isn't the greatest. Many years later, it still is like, are we having this conversation? I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else on this thing, where it still feels a little surreal in some ways. And as I see the photo of the lake, I want to give an extra little shout out to the cutie in the jean dress. It's Miss Anna's birthday today. So give Anna a big happy 18th birthday. So, Dad, now that you've kind of set the stage, of course, you're on the show. We know how this story ends. So, fast forward, you were all of a sudden a single parent at 43 years old with three daughters at home. Can you give us a little insight into where your mind was right away?
Well, you'd think that you'd be more prepared for it because it was cancer and it was a degenerative situation.
Mm,
But the one thing is what surprised me is how much you're just so caught up in the hours and the days just trying to get through it and take care of all the needs that need to be met and trying to help was trying to help Amy survive. And then all of a sudden it was over. And it was like, wow. It was the shock of it all. And I think really it was the really the only way to describe the last months, especially, and then the first months of being a single parent, was just you're in survival mode. You're just trying to
mm.
get through the day. You got three kids, and you've definitely been thrown into the deep end, and you've got to become mom and dad. There was an element. It sounds a little weird, but there was an element of relief because she did not want to go. She loved life, and she loved me and my loved you girls, and she did not want to go. But when it was time, it was pretty obvious it was time.
Yeah,
And so there was an element of relief
yeah,
that I know that her pain was over. Ours was going to continue, but
yeah.
but the one nice thing too is that I had you girls needed me. So I had kids. I had to kind of dust myself off and keep going
Mm,
because there was people dependent on me. Three minor girls, four, 10 became quickly 11 and 13, and we had to keep moving. And you guys needed to have a stable situation. And so that's
mm,
that's what helped me figure out how to be mom and dad is I just needed to.
yeah. Well, and I can, of course, just like our song said, which for those of you who are just joining, Andrew Mack played a beautiful song at the beginning. I guess beautiful if I say so myself. I wrote it. But it was about like a river. And the reason I just wanted this to be on this exact episode was just to be able to say, like you, just like you said, like you kept moving. And that doesn't mean you didn't have grief, and we're about to talk about that a lot more. But as a daughter who was also going through her own grief, and we'll absolutely in another episode talk about what it's like to lose a parent, I just appreciate you so much. And that
Mm,
like doesn't even scratch the surface of how much I love you and appreciate you not collapsing for us. So
no,
thank you.
no, my pleasure. Thanks.
I know a big part of the show is about those of us who can't necessarily relate to your situation. We want to know what it's like. How can we help? We can't relate. We don't know exactly what's going on. So I know in episode one, for those of you who have been able to go through and watch that, we talked about the target. And this is something that I'm going to talk about a lot on the show. And if you think of like a target, you've got your outer ring, middle ring, and then your center, right? And the people that are furthest away, middle, and then that's your closest one. And of course, different layers have just a different level of expectation and what is appropriate. So, Dad, the question to you is, what are things that were helpful right away that somebody on this outer ring, which is really just anybody who's like, man, I feel awful for that family. How can I help? Anybody, regardless of how close they are, what are some things that they did or you wish they would have done, I guess, um, in those initial first couple months?
Well, there were so many people that wanted to help, and there was d- there was such an outpouring of support. It was just very
Mhm.
humbling, and we called it Amy's Army, and there were just so
Oh,
many people that wanted to do something and help, and loved our family and loved you girls, and we're all just everybody was sad, and the thing that was really helpful for us was meals. People there was somebody coordinated a meal sign up list, and it was just
mm,
so nice. People come up with some wonderful meals and things I would have never have certainly never have cooked, and it was just wonderful. And cleaning,
mhm,
just there was people that would clean and or people were pitching in money to clean. Those are things that you can do from a distance that were just extremely helpful. Um, dropping us an occasional letter, a nice note. So it's just very kind. You don't have to be that close to a person to let them know that you're thinking about them,
yeah,
and to a family and let them know that you care. And those are the things that were very helpful. Now, if you're a widow or a widower, reaching out to someone who's lost somebody. So somebody who's gone through it, reaching out. I know I've done that a few times, and you have a natural bond and
mm,
an empathy with each other. But that happened to me as well. Somebody who's lost their spouse, and that's just even though I didn't even hardly know some of the people, just the fact that they took the time to do that, that was just really neat. And some of the words of comfort and
yeah,
encouragement were all real. Um, and maybe sending the family a gift basket at Christmas
mm.
time or something like that. Just all those things were always they meant a lot, and those are the things that we can do when someone's lost someone.
Oh, that's awesome, and I, also benefited from those meals and the cleaning and all that stuff. So for those of you who are on the call like me, kind of taking little mental notes and like, "Okay, how can I help a family?" Um, uh, some great tips right there. The thing that I would just add to just through this work and all the research and conversations I've had is the importance of put it on your calendar. If you have a family, remember grief doesn't just like stop after 2 weeks, even though your life has to move on. So just maybe pencil it in. Just do a little check in, like every month. Just put it on your calendar for a couple months, just to see, because eventually, that I think I'm sure you're going to talk about this later on. But the hype of not the hype. That's not the right word. The high emotions, shock, concussion after a bomb went off, kind of eventually fades, but the need and the hurt is still there. So I think everybody wants to help right out of the gate, 2 weeks out, but then it kind of starts to fade. So for those of you listening who are like, how can I really be an A student and stand out? I would just encourage you, just from a lot of the different examples that I've seen, whether it's my life or other people's life, but just put things on the calendar. Just like, check in with the sirs or check in with so and so, and then it's just a quick reminder for you. So, Dad, thank you for that. That definitely is a great way for that outer ring. And sorry, my hands are getting cut off here. So then, what about that next tier where they're family friends? They know your kids, they know you guys, but they're not necessarily best friends.
Mhm. Well, there's things that can be more direct help would be like
Mhm.
carpooling, picking up kids for sports and things like that. Um, maybe taking the kids for an afternoon and play with their kids, or even a
Mm,
sleepover kind of thing. And it's good to talk about it. We really miss your mom, or we really, miss your one of my best friends, kind of thing. And
mm,
everybody misses who's gone, and so just letting them know. But I think just pitching in and for help and shopping an actual day to day, things are very helpful for families because
mm.
if you're a single parent, you're stretched, and if you've got multiple kids going multiple directions, people pitching in that you can trust that can haul your kids around and you're not worried about it and stuff like that, is very helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. And I remember people would take us school shopping and Christmas shopping so we could buy your present, things like that. But it is, single parents are, you got, well, your own stuff to go through too, and you can't do everything all the time, especially as you're transitioning into a single parent. So for those of you who know the kids and know that the kids trust you, I can just say, as a kid, it never felt weird for me to go hang out with someone who's taking us for dinner or for lunch. So just ask, and if the kids are comfortable and they say yes, run with it. That would be a huge help to families going through loss with kids at home if the kids know you and are comfortable. All right. So then, Dad, the last group. So of our target, we got our outer ring, inner ring, and then it's this tight knit circle. These are the people you call right away when something bad has happened. How can they help you, or how did they help you the best? And what advice do you have for us? Because we all have a target, right? Everybody on this call. A great activity for us to do afterwards is think, who is my inner circle? Who would I consider that? Because odds are, if they're in yours, you're in theirs, and there's this beautiful flow of helping each other when they need it most.
Well, that group is, we're talking about best friends and siblings and neighbors and church family and stuff that are we're very close to, and that was the group that was more the interpersonal communication, just the talking and stopping by, the having us over for dinner for Easter, things like that.
Mm,
Family, spending time a weekend over at my brother's or something like that, or going down to the family farm. Just being around the family and it just kind of it just helps, and it just there's so much love and everything. It just takes a lot of pressure off, and people taking the kids, your the aunties taking the kids with, so they can play with the cousins and stuff for the weekend and stuff and all that. It's just very it's just that inner group is just so they're everybody's locked arms, and we're trying to get through this, and
mm,
during the fight and then after the fight. So that group was not to be underestimated, is just how many people were in that group that were devastated as well, and
yeah.
they were there for us.
Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of just touched on it? They're grieving too. So when you lost mom, can you touch a little bit about how you lost multiple people with that, and how they might have lost multiple people within the same loss?
What a good question. It's when you're married, I brought a group of friends, she brought a group of friends, and we had our own friends and stuff like that. And then when someone's gone, there's that separation. And Amy's family, we've been able to stay in touch, and which has been wonderful. But there was an element of we just don't see him as much and things like that. So there's things like that, and then of course the circle of friends of where Amy worked with American Airlines and stuff, and that whole group. And even though we've stayed in touch through you girls and things like
Yeah.
that, that's just people that are kind of are gone, that are gone from
Mm,
our day to day and from our what was our routine and our life together. And so there
right.
was that's hard, because it's harder for that, the ones that were trying to stay involved. It's harder for them to stay involved because the person they were here for is gone. And so
Mm,
it made it hard. So and then
yeah.
they lost their best one of their friends, and another mom, and stuff. And so it was felt by many, and
Yeah.
even to this day, it's felt by many. So yeah, there's a you lose some people along the way, and that's
Yeah.
hard.
Right. Oh, well, thank you for that insight. I think that's just a good thing to remember. Again, whether it's my dad's situation or anybody who is grieving, that not only did they lose their wife or husband, who was also a friend, who was also their co-parent, there's multiple people within that one person, who passed away, that different relationships. But then also, you're not going to see their close friends as much anymore. And there's just like a loss of change. There's a loss of unrealized dreams. There's a massive disappointment, like we talked about last year, yeah, last episode, gap between expectation and reality. And so there's just so much grief on so many different planes, that I think if you're approaching somebody, remember they're not only grieving the person, they're grieving their future, they're grieving the people that they're not going to be in touch with as much, and there's just a lot there. So it's good to go in with that understanding. So that, all that said, we've got our little target, right, of our different tiers. We know that even if you're at the center, you can still bring a meal. Remember, you can do anything. It just builds upon each other with that expectation as you get closer to the center. So that said, what was not helpful?
Well, everybody, it's awkward. Let's call a spade a spade. It's awkward. You don't know what to say. You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know the devastation. We all see it, and most of us have not dealt with this. We're just kind of
Mm,
sitting there wondering what to do. What I found is, and I've done this too, is what's not helpful is to say, if you need anything, let me know, or if you ever want
mm,
to just talk, let me know. That's it feels good to kind of say that, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't work. I've been on both sides of it. I've said that to people. If there's anything I can do for you, if you'd like to just visit or something, but really what you need to do is actually make that happen,
mm,
and not just say you contact me. What you said before, Michaela, is we contact the person, the family that needs it or the person who needs it. And so
yeah.
that's just one of those things I think we can all learn from. And I've learned from it too, is just to say those things. It's kind of an empty offer.
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere because the person who's suffered the loss or the family has suffered the loss, they're not going to pick up the phone and call you.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So I think that's probably the one thing that's just not very helpful.
What a good reminder, because I know I've said that too. And we have to give ourselves grace, right? This is what the show is all about, no shame zone. But I know I've even walked away from a conversation like, why did I say that? Like,
Yeah.
so it's a good thing for us all to keep in mind for almost any situation, right? Um, Another question that came from the audience, which was so awesome before the show, which was, how do you, as a now single parent, take care of yourself with kids at home? And before you dive in, I just want to share one of my favorite analogies with the audience here today. When you were on an airplane, and my mom was a flight attendant, so this is all coming together. They always say, as the yellow mask drops down, put your mask on first, and then turn to the person next to you and help them. So, Dad, that said, now as a single parent, how did you take care of yourself with a very busy three girls at home?
Well, the oxygen mask analogy is true, but it took a little while to learn it.
Yeah.
Um, your initial reaction is just to make sure that everybody else is kind of taken care of, and then you just watch yourself get drained more and more. And I learned early on through a counselor I was seeing that you got to put it sounds selfish, but it's like putting that mask on. Is it really selfish to put the oxygen mask on first? No, it's
Right.
actually necessary. And so she had told me, she said, you have to put yourself first and you have to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't take care of others.
Mm,
And so when I started to better understand that, then it kind of gives you a license or permission to take care of yourself. Things like getting enough rest and asking for help and working out again and getting help with getting the right groceries or having a family over to co-cook together and that kind of
yeah.
stuff. And when you put yourself first, when you become healthier, you can just provide better. And it doesn't, the opposite doesn't work very well because
Right.
the more you're drained and the more emotionally you drained you are and physically drained you are, you just can't be there for those who
Mm,
really need you. So once I started to figure that out and practicing that, it all just worked a lot better. I was healthier and happier. The kids are healthier and happier, and things just function better. So you just have to learn
yeah.
that it's really important to put yourself first,
Right.
and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And with that comes a lot of I guess excitement.
Yeah.
Life's good, and there's um, a lot of life to be lived. The person who left us, Amy, in my case,
Mm,
she wouldn't want me sitting around sad and locked away. She would want me to do what she did, which is living. She lived life to the fullest. She just had fun,
yeah.
and so why would she want anything different for me? And so it's okay to all of a sudden start doing some fun stuff, pick up some things, that I maybe didn't, fly in radio control airplanes, things that I kind of put on the shelf, you just didn't get to it, little kids and stuff like that. You can start doing again because you have the license to start learning new things and trying new things and meeting new
Mm,
people and just different things, picking up the
yeah.
tennis racket again. There's all sorts of things that you can do that makes life fun because we're
Right.
here to enjoy this,
Mm.
and the happier we are, the happier the people around us are.
That's awesome. And I think for those of us who are listening and maybe thinking of people we know who are in a major loss situation and they've got kids at home, what a great thing for us to be able to encourage them and say, "Hey, you got to put yourself first." And then of course follow that up with, "How can I help? Can I take this off your plate? Can I babysit the kids for a little bit while you go to the gym?" I know that's a huge perspective shift for me. So thank you, Dad.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, we're at our last question, which is crazy. So this went by so fast, but just know, you guys, if you had questions that didn't get answered, we are going to have many more episodes coming up with Mr. Mike. So, Dad, the last question for today is for a lot of us on the show, especially for those of us who are newly married. We have not lost a spouse, obviously, yet. Hearing your story, even though it's honest and it's true, it can kind of make us start to become aware that that's a possibility, which is super scary, if I'm just being honest. So, what advice do you have to someone who is, hearing that and kind of having their eyes wide open and saying, "Geez, like I'm starting to worry. Like, what if my spouse dies?" And they're starting to kind of feel that potential anxiety.
Well, worrying doesn't help anything. So, worrying isn't going to help. But I think that if you go back to your wedding vows, what is,
Mhm.
for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, till death do us part, and in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And life happens, and
Yeah,
so most of us, although everybody here, who some of us have lost a spouse, many others who are married are going to lose a spouse. It's a harsh part of reality.
yeah,
And so I think we did some things well, we did some things not so well. We did do some planning, but I wish we would have done a little bit more. We had our will and all that kind of stuff, and I knew, there were things that we planned for very well, but we kind of, most of it, because Amy was such a fighter that she really didn't want to have those conversations at the end. And I
yeah.
understand that she wanted to live, not die. And so really wasn't interested in opening up that. But what I would suggest to people is, whether you're newlywed or a few years into marriage, or if you're middle aged and you've been married a long time, is talk about stuff and really think about, if something were to happen, our situation was a degenerative cancer. Sometimes it's, you just get a phone call that so
Yeah.
and so was killed in a car accident, or they had died of a heart attack. There was no time to sit and plan. Get your ducks in a row. And that means both from a will and a trust and all the, the mechanical things, the financial things, because those are real.
Yeah.
And when you don't you have your ducks in a row and you're blindsided or surprised, it's just that the damage done is for real. But I think the healthy part about that is that you get a chance to really talk about, what do you want, what do you want to happen? If I were to die, what do you want, to look like? Or if you were to die, what would you want for me?
Mm.
And really just talking about that, because for it's probably going to happen. Not many people die, couples die simultaneously. That's just isn't reality. And so I think planning for plan for the best, prepare for the worst is one of my slogans. And I think that that's really important, is
Mm.
live life to its fullest, but recognize that there's risks of life, and there's a risk that we're going to lose one of us before 95 years old.
Mm.
And we just want to talk about it and make sure that if I were to die, that I didn't leave a mess for my kids or my spouse, and that it's all planned and they know who to call, and just the little things like that. And I know most people on the call have thought about this, but a lot of us haven't done anything about it. But I just think that one of the things that happened, I knew Amy was going to be buried. I knew it. They talked about that final conversation. I would have liked to have spent more time saying, "What do you want for the kids? What do a little
Mm.
more direction for me," and maybe her writing letters to the girls.
Yeah.
Um, those were misses, and so I wish we could have gotten there. But that's what I would say, is that just planning for it and having the conversation, because life happens. If it can happen to our family, it can happen to anybody. And
Yeah.
so just being prepared for it, I just think is just really good. It's healthy. It's relational. Is a relationship building. There's security and planning, and then when that day comes, or however it comes, it's not, "Oh, I wish we would have planned better. Now we're going to lose our house, or
Mm.
everything's devastated." So just don't let that happen.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And for those of you guys who remember, if you need help having some of those harder conversations, or you need help, writing those letters out, those legacy letters, things that my dad, kind of alluded to. I think we all wish mom would have done that. And I love her so much, but that was a hard, just reality that some people have these beautiful letters they get to open on their like wedding day and stuff. And we just didn't, because we just had that like 100% faith she was going to pull through all the time until of course she died. And then so it really was very shocking. And so just so you guys know, we have that death doula, Susan Lawrence of Adeste, who like that's her job, is to help you have those conversations. So if you're like, this is a really good idea, um, let me know. Be on that email list and I'll make sure I send out that. So, Dad, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom. I know I learned a whole lot. I hope you guys in the audience learned a lot. Not that we're hoping a bunch of people in our life become widowers or widows, but now hopefully we'd have a little bit more background on what actually helps and versus what doesn't help. So, thanks so much, Dad. Love you so
Oh,
much.
love you too. Thank you.
All right. And the last thing, you guys, I want to do is just remind you that you have so many resources. So if this is stirring up some stuff in you and you're like, I'm freaking out, I don't know where to go, this is kind of bringing up a lot. We've got an awesome company that I cannot wait to share with you. Actually, it's an organization called Heal Grief, and they have an app. And this is like something that's like crazy. That I'm like, what? There's an app? There's an app for like grief resources and grief groups called Actively Moving Forward. I talked with the founder this morning, and she is an absolute gem. So you're going to absolutely want to be part of that. And I've got about 5 other resources to send you to make sure you know you're not alone, and that you've got a lot of people, myself included, and organizations who want to lift you up. And then these are going to be great organizations. A lot of them are serve the whole country, that you can have in your back pocket. So when you know somebody, you can say, hey, I heard about Brighter Days. I heard about Heal Grief. I heard about Miki Spears. Oh, let's see if we can get this in the camera. My Heart Still Remembers book, which is free for all of you on this call. All you got to do is head to MikiSpear.com, which is in the chat, but I'll make sure I get that to you. You can get your free copy, or you can order them from Amazon, which is also linked there. I know a lot of people just have them on hand and then they give them out as people in their church or people in their community pass away. And they said, hey, when you're ready, here's a really good resource for you. And oh, by the way, I'm going to make sure I follow up in a couple months too. So thank you all so much for being here. It means the absolute world. Next week, we are talking about body image, which applies to all of us. And especially, and if you're like, I love myself and I've never had low self-esteem. First of all, good for you. Not me. This is absolutely something I struggle with. It's just it's a battle every day. Is a battle to not listen to the voices and not see the magazines and all that stuff and compare yourself. And so next week we have a very dynamic speaker coming on about that. But even if you're like, I don't agree with that, I'm perfect, which is awesome. And I hope you feel that way. Just know you probably know somebody who, like me, struggles in that department. And it's going to be awesome for you to be able to learn how you can support people who, like me, struggle with low self esteem sometimes. So I hope today was valuable. I can't wait to see you all next week. If you have questions for our next week's speaker, be sure to respond to that follow up email, which will be sent out soon. And of course, if you haven't yet, please jump on that list. You are not going to want to miss out on ways to stay in touch with the wonderful Andrew Mack. Get a Dearly Missed dedication going. Get your free copy of My Heart Still Remembers, and just so much more. You all are the absolute best. For those of you who sent me your address last week, I've got it locked in. Just know your gift is coming. It's on its way. Shipping with pandemic has been a little bit slower than planned. But if you did not get me your address last week, no worries. It's a 2-part gift. So all of you are still able to get the second part. And I would absolutely love to send it to you totally free, totally just my way of saying, hey, thanks for being here. So be sure to respond to that follow-up email with your address, because I want to send each and every one of you a little gift. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to see you next week. Bye, guys.